Hey guys, before we start, a quick shout out to Alpha Dog Nutrition for sponsoring this podcast. Alpha Dog products are now available at dusupply.com, and you can use code ALPHADOG15 at checkout for 15% off and a credit for free shipping to try it yourself. Now let's get you to your podcast.
Where's Fielder? He's gone to the dogs.
Hey, welcome once again to the Gone to the Dogs podcast. Steve Fielder here with you as usual. It's a Saturday morning here in the great state of Florida. And I didn't have to reach outside the state lines today for our guest, a guy that I spent some time losing sleep and watching him hack through the palmetto bushes and the cat claw briars and all the joys of coon hunting in Florida. My hunting bud, Mr. Mack Britt. How you doing, Matt?
I'm doing good, Steve. How are you doing?
Good, and I think I said Matt, but it is Mack, M-A-C-K, Mack,
yes,
right?
Just like the Mack truck.
Like the big bulldog on the hood. That's him, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, where did the Britts come from? Did they live in Florida for many generations?
Well, my grandpa's folks, I think they were up from around the Chipley, Florida area.
Up in the Panhandle, huh?
Yes, but I think somewhere down the line, they originated somewhere in North Carolina.
All right. Yeah, well, that's kind of where my family, the Fielders, I think they started out in North Carolina. So many of those people that came over from England, most of my ancestry is English. Do you know what yours is?
I believe English, British. I think that's where the Brit came from. So,
yeah, well, that makes sense. Yeah. Well, Anyway, they generally would come in like at Philadelphia or whatever, but there seemed to be a real draw to go down to North Carolina. And in fact, that's the way the Plott family, when they first came, those boys, well, actually only one of them made the trip, but came into Pennsylvania and then migrated south to North Carolina. And, of course, then they went further west of the mountains. But anyway, yeah, okay, I got you. We're probably, distant relatives back there in the Dark Ages. We might have lived in adjoining caves or something.
Yeah, you never know. That's what we used to say around here, somehow, some way. Growing up here in Parrish, where you're related somewhere or another down the tree.
Yeah. Well, being from West Virginia, I'm familiar with that concept, because our family trees up there usually only have one branch,
That's it.
That's, they say if a boy and girl up there in the mountains gets married, does that mean they're still brother and sister?
Yeah.
That's pretty bad.
I know. We always did the same comment here about make sure it's not your cousin. So,
yeah. Well, of course, I have the highest respect for my friends and neighbors up in the Mountain State, but here I am in Florida, and I think I'm here for, as my mother would say, the duration. I think as I look down the road, I got a whole lot fewer years left than I have behind me. So I think Florida is going to be my final home. But, Mac, just thinking about the weekend, we were mentioning there just a minute before we started recording, the Pro Sport has got an event going on out in Springfield, Tennessee this weekend. They call it the Pro Sport Shootout, and I noticed some of the dogs that were in the top 16, including my friend John Strickland, well, he's everybody's buddy. Everybody knows John. And, of course, Randy Smith partners with him. And they have the lady female that won the Joy, what was it called? The Joy Super Hunt last year. And so anyway, that's going on this weekend. Saw a lady was in the top 16, so I'll root for her a little bit. But let's see, this old scratchy throat's working on me. Hold it just a second. Anyway, just wanted to catch up with you a little bit. It's been a few nights since you and I went hunting, and I think the last time we probably went up here to the wildlife management area, and were we with our buddies Kurt and Jeff, and I think Orlis Roberts may have slid in there for a little bit.
Yes, sir.
And so I talked to our mutual friend Gary Langford this morning, and he had mentioned the fact that I'd been up hunting last weekend. He had heard with a friend of his, and Mike Reeves, who's a young man that I just recently met. And so we might talk a little bit about that hunt. But you tell me, well, let's back up a little bit. You're hunting a young dog out of the first Tournament of Champions winner, Bad Butch. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And tell me a little bit about old Butch.
Oh, you mean Clutch?
Clutch, yeah, that's right.
Yes, sir.
Keep me straight here, Mac.
Oh, okay. Yes, sir. But he's out of Bad Butch. So he turned 3 in December. So I got him from Wayne Hunter. It's been about 2 years ago, and he was a slow starter, but he's slowly catching up. I think me and him are finally starting to get on the same page. So it's been a while, but
yeah,
it's all starting to come around, I think.
Right. I can't believe it's been 2 years. Yes. It seemed to me like I remember when you were telling me that you'd gotten Clutch. And but so when I went with him here a couple of weeks ago, he looked pretty good, pretty salty. Nice tree dog for sure. Yes,
sir. So he's, like I said, he's starting to come around. I guess the switch is finally gone off a little bit. What's that saying? Better late than never. So, but I just been keeping after him, trying to get him hopefully tuned up. If everything works out, if he keeps going on the way he's going, I'd like to try to hit a couple hunts this summer with him. So just to test him out and see, if he'll get me, maybe, if he does good enough, I can try to see if I can hit enough hunts where I can get those 5 cast wins on him, maybe. So we'll just keep playing with him.
Well, that's right. Well, we have a lot of listeners that have questions and starting out with young dogs, and I got a call this week from a good friend, Lucas Clemens. I met Lucas through these puppies out of Bearpin Fever, and he was the first to breed a female to Fever. And so he has set aside a couple of those pups. He had a big litter, had 12 puppies, and she raised them all. And so he's got I believe it's an uncle that is a bear hunter, and they're going to try to concentrate on bear only with these 2 puppies. Now, he's got one that he calls Church, and then there's a female named Reba that another friend of his there have that are doing really good on coon. So they got them well on their way. They've treated their own coon already and all that at 7 months old. But his questions for me were about starting bear dog puppies and how would I go about starting a dog on bear. And really just to cut to the chase on it, I told him, basically I'd do it the same way that I'd start a coonhound puppy. He wanted to be sure or to try to make trail dogs, strike dogs and trail dogs out of these pups. And, most bear hunters will tell you if you don't have a good coal trailer, it's going to be pretty rough. And so I know you're not a bear hunter, Mack, so I'm not going to bore you with a lot of that. But basically, I told him maybe we'll get him on and we'll talk about that process and how his pups are doing. But basically, just start him like a coon hound pup, drags, a piece of hide maybe. And I still got a piece of tanned bear hide out here in a box with a string of baler twine on it and a bottle of bear training scent that my dad used to start his puppies with. So that's kind of how. Now, when you got Clutch, he was already past that puppy stage, wasn't he? Or how old was he?
He was about 18, 19 months old when I got him.
I got you.
So, but the guy that had him, I guess he had quit hunting, and I guess some things happened in life. So he sat in the pen 7-8 months or so. So he kind of probably went backwards. So it was almost like starting all over again.
I got you. Well, talk about him. Any of these stories that we talk about, my desire is that there's somebody out there that needs to hear it. That there's somebody out there going through that with a dog right now. Maybe there's situations like that. Maybe they've got a young dog and they just weren't able to put the time in on him. And you say at 18 months old, a lot of guys have already given up on dogs. They've moved on,
Yeah.
And so I think your story is good because we're having a good result here of your patience and so forth. So, all right, describe him when you got him. How was he acting?
Well, he was acting normal. I mean, I'd take him out there with the dogs. He'd, go and come, but you could just tell just seemed like he still had a lot of puppy in him still. And I guess you would say he hadn't really matured much. And I just kept taking him, and then he'd, slowly just get a little bit better. And then some nights he'd go, some nights he wouldn't, and I'd get a little aggravated. And then he'd, just doing typical young dog stuff, where one night you start seeing him like, okay, he's starting to show improvement. Then you take him 2 or 3 nights and he's going backwards again. And it's like, is this son of a gun ever going to, catch on or whatever? So, and then my female was in heat there one time, and I was trying to hunt him with other guys, and all he wanted to do, he had her on the brain. So all he wanted to do was go smell other dogs and ride other dogs even while he was hunting and all. And, that got to be aggravating. So, and then I tried to take him out by himself and walk him around, and all he wanted to do was hang around at my feet, and I'm getting aggravated with him. And so, stuff like that. And then, summertime would come, so I wouldn't hunt as much. So I guess maybe laying him up kind of helped a little bit. Maybe, I don't know. But then just, we'd take him here or there, and then have a couple of good nights, started training with the dogs and, giving him a couple, and he just slowly started taking off. And I'd say these past 6 months or whatever, because I was almost to the point of figuring, well, he just ain't got it. He just, his age and being laid up, it just messed him up. And I just kept plugging along with him. And I'd say I was going to start really pushing him about October. And then that's when we had the hurricane come through, and that just messed everything up. So I didn't get to hunt for about 3-4 weeks. And then about November, December, when I'm back hunting a little bit here or there and all, and then it just seemed like he was starting to get a little bit better. And like I said, he turned 3 in December. And I guess then he just kind of, with the age and me taking him hunting, and it just seems like he's just getting better and better and better. And, and as far as hearing him, I mean, that son of a gun has got a mouth on him, so you can definitely hear him, which I like that. So, and he just,
for sure he does. And
he's got the look, which I'm not into, breeding or whatever, but as far as looks for a male, he's big, tall, muscular, big headed. I'd say he's probably about 75, 80 pound, and just to me looks like what a male dog should look like.
Yeah, absolutely. Good looking dog, outstanding mouth, as you said, and a tree dog, man. I really like the way he got on the wood. And I don't remember if I hunted with him when he was going through those puppy stages and stuff or not.
Yeah, I don't think you did.
Yeah, I know you and I talked several times about him, and I knew that you were getting a little aggravated, and you used that word, and I think that's a buzzword that every coon hunter knows very, very well, being aggravated with the dog. And maybe we could do a whole podcast on that, just why do we get aggravated and why we shouldn't get aggravated with them. But we do. You know, that's human nature. We want them to do well. As we get older, I'm speaking for myself now, I begin to see, you know, that patience is a virtue, as they say, and that the more patient we can be with these dogs, the better result we're going to get. Yeah. Well, it's really good for me to hear that he has come along, because I know that you had I tried a female there that you put a good bit of time into, and she just never did really make the cut. And of course, your older female, Minnie, there, you know, she's been a good one for you, but she's getting a little gray in the face.
Yes,
and
she'll be 10 in May.
Yeah. So, and you know, people don't understand it, I don't think. But when you look at a 10-year-old dog that's been hunted its whole life in Florida, and you look at a 10-year-old dog that's been hunted in the Midwest, there's a world of difference. This terrain, climate, this is a harsh place for hounds.
Yes.
It's hard on them just every day getting through the summer, you know, when our temperatures are very high and the humidity is very high, and you got all these parasites to deal with and all. I know the Chamber of Commerce is probably not appreciating my assessment of what Florida's like, but Louis Pegram, who worked for the Purina, Ralston Purina many years and helped develop some of the formulas and all, retired to Florida, and he was a whippet breeder. And he would tell me every time I'd see him, he said, Steve, Florida's a really tough place to keep dogs. And,
yes.
And I realize that. Of course, this plug I got here, he's got a mate. He's in climate control 24/7, just like his master. So,
yes, sir.
Well, old Clutch, yeah, man. You got him, as you said, from Wayne Hunter. Now, Wayne and Janice and their son, Jason, are well known in the coonhound world. Wayne's been around quite a long time and was hunting PKC fairly regularly when I was with PKC. So, did he buy the dog from somebody up north, or was it a Florida race dog?
I think he had the female that Clutch came off of, and he sold this guy over in Lakes. I believe the dog came from around Lake City. And the guy, I guess, was into hunting for a bit. And then, like I said, some things happened, and he didn't hunt him anymore. So Wayne ended up getting him back, and I think he only had him a couple weeks or so. And then he posted that he was available, and I was looking for something at the time, and I seen it, and I thought, well, he's close, and he's right there in Florida. So, and he's only like 2.5, 3 hours up the road. So
sure.
I got in contact and we made a deal on him. So,
well, I think this is something that coon hunters probably have overlooked a bit over the years, is that there is a good market generally of dogs that are really right at the age to start or to see some results out of, that, you know, were bought as puppies. They had a good pedigree or whatever, and someone had the best of intentions for the dog, but then for whatever reason, they didn't follow through. And so that dog becomes available. And guys have picked up some pretty good bargains on some nice hounds by buying a young dog. I don't say let him get up to 3 or 4 years old, but buying a young dog that really hasn't been spoiled but hasn't been worked with or given a chance, to be what he could be, with given his genetic background and all. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times breeders have realized this, and I think Kurt Ehring alluded to this at one time. Some of the best dogs, come back to breeders. Guys said, well, I didn't like this about him. I didn't like that about him. I didn't like his mouth, didn't like the way he hunted, didn't like. Well, everybody has their own idea of what they want in a dog. And what may not please you, Mac, may tickle me to death,
Yes.
So I'm thinking maybe, and I don't know what Wayne saw or didn't see in Clutch, but he made the decision to sell him, and that turned out to be to your benefit.
Yeah. So that's what I tell guys all the time. They look at something and they see. I said, you got to do what's best for you. I said, just because what I see I don't like don't mean that it don't make you happy. I said, you're the one that's got to feed it and deal with it and all that. So I was like, mm-hmm. You do what makes you happy because you're the one, that's yours.
Right.
What I like may be different than what you like. I've been with some guys, they tree a possum, dogs tree a possum, they just kind of laugh about it, which I guess for me, wanting to go to a few hunts, and that'll get you in trouble. So, I try to correct it if I possibly can.
Yeah.
There'll be other guys, if they kneel off or tree and then leave or whatever, it's like no big deal for them. But I'm thinking if I'm going to go trouncing through this stuff, especially now after the hurricane, and you don't stay, that's not going to sit well with me going through some of this mess down here.
Yeah.
Right or wrong, you got to stay.
Yeah, well, we want to deal with that here in just a minute, but I want to kind of follow Clutch a little bit from those earliest days. So basically, you were just taking him hunting either with your dog or with somebody else. Were you hunting him by himself in those early days?
I was trying to a little bit. But he just didn't seem like he had to go.
Yeah.
I tried to walk him and he just didn't seem like he had any interest or just, I don't know. And now that I've hunted him more, I've seen him a little bit where now he'll kind of go a little bit. And then a couple times, the one place I got, unfortunately, it's got a lot of hogs in it. And I think now that I've seen kind of what I've been seeing, studying him, sometimes I think he gets a whiff of them hogs and he's like, I don't want no part of it, so I'm not going to go out there because I went to other spots with other people and get a chance to turn him loose by himself, and he don't slow down. I just cut him loose and he's, mm-hmm. goes just like you want one to go. So
and
I'm thinking
that's with other dogs in the box, so to speak. I mean, you just cut him
kind
by
of,
himself. Yeah.
But, when they didn't want to turn out no more and I, say, hey, we got time for one more or something. And I'd jerk him out and, and he'd cut him loose and he'll go do his thing.
Yeah, that's a great way to hunt dogs and to train them to hunt with other dogs in the box. Because I've seen dogs that didn't want to leave and didn't want to go hunting as long as another dog was still in the box. And I had to laugh last night. I was watching the LTE Garmin tracker that I have. I have a couple of them. I have one with Mark Miller up there with fever, and then I have one with Randy Smith in Pennsylvania. And I posted a little thing on Facebook about enjoying coon hunting, and, they were like 870 some miles away from me, and I'm sitting at home watching them. But Randy sent me a little video. He was watching his dogs on this Garmin XL, this new display that they have. Man, that thing is sharp. I mean, the graphics, the maps, everything is so sharp. really neat. But the thing I noticed, well, he had gone to a tree, and he had, let's see, I think, I don't want to get this confused, but I believe that he had cut his little Fran female and went to her tree. I think the Farrah female out of Frogger had already treed one. He'd been to that tree. He went to the second. I think this was maybe the third tree. Farrah was treed up ahead of him, and he stopped and cut Fran right toward Farrah. She was pretty good little distance in there, but he cut her right toward her. Well, little Fran went generally in the direction of Farrah, but as she got closer, she started veering to the left, and swung wide of Farrah's tree and went on and got treed by herself. So, these dogs, this independence that's in them nowadays is just really, really something to watch. And you can certainly watch it on your Garmin or your, whatever. What is it? What's the other one?
The Dogtra.
Dogtra, yeah. And, so anyway, well, man, I got a lot I want to ask you about this because it's good. It's good for listeners that are dealing with young dogs. My ghost pup and I went up to hunt on invitation by a young fellow named Mack Britt, who lives up at up here at I want to say Crystal. What is it?
Crystal River.
Crystal River. Thank you. And then there's also Cedar Key on up farther up at Crystal River, right? So I went up and I met Mike, and then I took my truck as well, and I followed him, and we went up to his lease, which is getting up around Perry, up that area. And so we got out and hunted 2 nights there. Coon were not moving. We saw 1 coon in 2 nights. And believe it or not, this was a coon that was sitting up along the roadway. And we cut the dogs down toward it, hoping maybe that they'd pick up the scent and maybe tree one, especially for my pup. And there apparently wasn't any scent on the ground, and the wind wasn't such that the dogs could smell it. So anyway,
was it dry up there? Did y'all have like cypress heads or?
No, there's plenty of water. It had some rain, but the water had receded a little. But cypress heads are full of water. There's not really sloughs, but just ditches and so forth, but nothing really that we couldn't negotiate. Some of the roadways were covered, but Mike had some issues with the lights on his side-by-side, so we were hunting out the pickup, and we didn't have any trouble, driving through these flooded places and so forth. The dogs, that's one thing about my pup, he's been hunted enough in the water down here, and also got into that some in Arkansas. He doesn't pay any attention to water. It doesn't bother him at all. I don't know how long and how far he'd go just in swimming water. But to switch over to him just a minute and talk about something, I believe in keeping everything above board and factual on this podcast as I possibly can. We all know that hunters like to embellish their stories and all that stuff.
No, they wouldn't do that, would they?
But a little bit, I attribute it to the fact that I am raising ghosts in the house. And I'm having more interaction with him than most would with their dogs because I see him a lot. Now, I don't sit around and pet him all day or anything like that. And when he was younger, he was more about jumping up on the couch and putting his head on my knee. But he's a big dog now. He's about 50 pounds at 7 months old. And he's going to be just the right size, I think, for a hound. But I noticed, and you probably noticed when I had him out with you guys, he'll break away and go hunting right away, and he likes to follow the other dogs.
Yeah, he doesn't hang around the truck.
No, but I do notice that he comes back quicker than I would like him to. Now, he doesn't come back and hang around me and want to be petted or anything like that. But instead of just going on, his littermate brother this weekend up in South Carolina, the guy that bred that litter, John Sapier, told me that he took his pup, Stitch, who's already treated a coon on his own, trailed the track up and treated, he was out about an hour last night. And he said he was working a bad track and he opened some on it, but just never could seem to figure it out. But so I'd like for Ghost to be doing a little bit more of that. But, we really haven't had any tracks to run. The times I've been with you here lately, tracks haven't been good.
No. Back in January and a little bit of early part of February, I think the coon were in rut. And I got after 2 or 3 that wanted to run like deer. But other than that, it's just been old working tracks or just layups. Really hasn't been, really great tracks.
Yeah, and I don't know what the difference is. Most of our soil down here is sand.
Yes.
And I'm not smart enough to know or haven't studied enough to know how sand holds scent as opposed to clay or other types of soil. Yeah. And,
I believe that clay will hold the scent a whole lot better than the sand, because that sand's like, I call it like sugar. It's, down here, some places even call it, they got that sugar sand, because it's like, just bags of sugar. You just pick it up and just runs right through your hands. So it's awful hard for a dog to, try to smell in that. But when he gets a little moisture to it, it seems like it helps better. But right now, as dry as it's been, it's real tough for him to try to, even a good track dog, it's tough for him to try to work in that sand and everything.
Yeah.
Especially down here.
Right. Well, I know in years past going out west, taking dogs out of the Midwest and taking them out into Arizona or New Mexico. And they have difficulty trailing. Years ago, I took a dog to West Texas when I was in the Air Force. And, man, he would go and he would hunt and he would stay until the track got hot, and then he's all about treeing. Yeah. But he had a tough time working a track, and some of those walker dogs out there, man, they could stick their nose in that old West Texas.
Well, here's a question: when you was in Michigan and those dry summers you'd have, did it seem like they still had a tough time trailing in that clay when it was dry, or did it make any difference?
Well, what happens in those woodlots and so forth up there, there's leaves on the ground year round. I mean, when they fall off and they're dead in the wintertime and all, they stay on the ground. Sometimes snow covers them and all, but you've got all that until the greenery comes back out in the spring. They seem to be able to trail all right if there's a degree of moisture. Those foggy nights, seem like they can really trail a coon. And then when it gets real green and the weeds and briars and all that, it gets harder for them to trail. And we saw that in West Virginia in the mountains, bear hunting. We had a training season that came in around the 1st August, and the dogs would have a lot of trouble trailing in that green stuff. But once the frost came along and hit it, knocked it over, and all, then the trailing picked up considerably. But
Yeah.
I would say a dog in the Midwest has a whole lot easier job of trailing than they do in the South. Yeah.
Because it seems like it gets a little bit better, especially when we get if you can stand to hunt in the summer here, when we get those afternoon rains and there's moisture on the ground, then it seems like it, in the ditches and all that, with the moisture in the water, it seems like it, helps them trail better.
Yeah.
But,
in West
mosquitoes eat you alive too, though.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. In West Virginia, when it would be extremely dry in the fall sometimes, and those warm October days, and you wouldn't get any rain, and the leaves would get very dry, and we'd say they'd crunch like cornflakes under your feet. Dogs had a terrible time trailing and that sort of stuff. It was really rough for them. But then if you got some rain, a day or two or three of rain and everything got damp again, then that's when the trailing definitely would pick up.
I know there's been a few times when I'd walking through the woods here when it'd be extremely dry, you could actually see the dust coming up through the ground as you're walking. It's like, ooh, if I can see it, I can just imagine what they're dealing with. So,
well, that's the way it was up in Pennsylvania last fall when I was up there hunting with Randy. And he would send me videos before I went up, and it almost looked like snow in the air where the light would shine on the dust,
Yeah.
And it was extremely dry when I was up there. They hadn't had rain for weeks. And I was amazed at how, the dogs could work. But he hunts big hunting dogs, they go. And I think they just find areas, that are damper perhaps, or scent's laying better. But, that scent's a whole mystery. And I know it's been addressed on other podcasts. Yeah. And there's all kinds of theories and all that people have.
Because I know it's fixing here in the next week, and it's even starting some of the oak trees I seen last night, where these oak trees are starting to pollen out and everything now. So, and I think that kind of messes the dog up some too.
Yeah, wife.
Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Oh, you bet it does. My wife and I were just commenting this morning that we both had this scratchiness in her throat, from this. And she kind of watches the air quality advisories. Neither one of us are challenged, with lung problems or anything like that. But kind of watch that. And the air quality down here right now is terrible. It's just not good. And we haven't had any rain really to speak of here in several weeks. You mentioned the hurricanes. Of course, we're running rabbits here. But I know when I was up there north of me, a couple of hours, 3 hours or so, I was up around where both of those hurricanes last year came in through there. When they made landfall, it's up toward what they call the Big Bend up there, where Florida, the peninsula, the north-south part of Florida bends over to the west, and there's a handle there. Of course, we call it the Panhandle. And in that area, man, there's a lot of timber down, a lot of it. And that, of course, that has destroyed some of the prime hunting areas, This lease that we're on is huge, but, some of Mike's favorite places to hunt, he can't access anymore because everything's on the ground.
Yeah. Well, I know that because that's like the farm I got out here by me when that last one went through last October. Some of the best hunting that I had out there along the creeks and everything without hurricane, the wind just between the wind and the tornadoes, I guess because the roots was soft being along them creek banks or whatever, and they just laid a lot of oaks down where it's just hard, and dog gets in there and they just can't move, and then you can't maneuver through there. And even last night I got in a spot. I think he ended up, because I didn't think he was right when he treed, and I was headed in there and you could just see all kind of trees just down just down in that swamp and everything, where it was just, and I think he just got in a bunch of that blow down in there, but it was rough trying to get through all that mess. And then unless they burn the woods, it's just going to lay there and rot, and then briars and vines, and just almost impossible to try to get through.
Yeah, and anybody who's hunted and got after kitten coons, even in good conditions, they like to get on things and climb around and so forth, and makes it tough on a dog, sometimes to trail. Mm-hmm. Well, just imagine with all of this oak timber and all these hardwoods on the ground, and the coons are going to be all over those things, but the dogs are not going to be able to follow where the coons go. It's going to be a tough job for us. I remember back years ago when that hurricane came into South Carolina. What was the name of that one?
Was that Hugo, that real bad one?
Hugo. There you go. And, guys would just commonly say, we can't go in that area. That's Hugo. Referring back to the fact that storm had come through there and just laid everything on the ground.
Yeah. Mother
Nature's not kind to a coon hunter. And it's amazing to see the devastation that comes with those hurricanes and tornadoes. And it's going to take several years for that stuff to all rot out and be able to get through, for us to get through it again.
Yeah, unless you get on some of these places where they do them controlled burns and they can burn it or whatever. So, but.
Well, my friend Gary Langford, your friend too, we were talking today, and we were talking about that and about some of the burns, that maybe sometimes they harvest these trees that have been burned before, they while they're still good. I guess there's a lot of good lumber still in those trees, even though they're burned on the outside. So I hadn't really thought about that. But then there you go. You're going to be in there cutting. And, hey, man, it's just it's a challenge for sure.
Yeah.
And when I go to Arkansas and I see those big timber bottoms, wide open, beautiful big trees, and I see a log truck rolling down the highway, it makes me a little angry.
I know.
It makes me sick. It makes me angry too,
Yeah. So I know I see a few of them. It's like, I get it. It's a business, but it's like, do you really got to take them? But what really makes me upset is right now with all this development going on, some of these guys taking these big bulldozers and loaders and just knocking down these big oaks just to make, for these homes. It's like, man, some of these oaks have been here, 100 years, just big, beautiful oaks, and they just whacking them down like they're nothing.
It's a sin, Mac. It is, I've always been for progress and growth and all that, but Florida needs to stop.
It's terrible.
I'm a fan of our governor. I think he's done a lot of good, but, we need to stop this uncontrolled growth. I mean, we got people coming in 1,000 a day or something down here. It's crazy. And, just building. They're building one way here on a road called Little Road. It's a north-south road that parallels Highway 19 to the east. And they're putting in 2 huge developments. And I look at these houses that they're building, and they're just close. It doesn't look like there's 3 or 4 feet between them. And they just look like cracker boxes. Of course, they're all built of cinder block and concrete, down here. Mm-hmm. But I'm thinking, man, I don't want to spend my life in a place like that,
I know. It's like yesterday. I mean, now you got spring break going on. The Pirates, they have their spring training in Braden, and everybody to get home yesterday from work is normally about a 40-minute drive, 45 minutes. It took me almost an hour and a half yesterday to get home. because the traffic was just so backed up with everybody.
I don't
just
doubt
bumper
it
to
at all.
bumper.
Yeah, it's happening like that all over here too. And
It's like I'm like, come on, people! I know you're down here for vacation, but please go back.
go see Mickey and then get the heck back up the highway.
Yes,
Yeah,
wherever home is for you.
Yeah, well, they could say, well, Fielder, you did that too. You were a damn Yankee. The difference between a Yankee and a damn Yankee is a Yankee comes, visits, and goes home. A damn Yankee comes down here and stays. So, so anyway, that's just a pet peeve because when I was here in the 60s, in college in Polk County in the central part of Florida, it was all cattle ranches and orange groves and lakes and beautiful, beautiful country. And now, it's wall to wall to wall. So, man is that old song, I think it was Joni Mitchell maybe, or Take Paradise and Put Up a Parking Lot. That's what we're doing down here.
Oh, I know. Just nothing but rooftops. So crazy.
Well, was there a point when old Clutch kind of turned the corner for you? You could put a situation, or was it just a gradual progression?
It was a gradual, but I've really noticed in these last, I'd say 3 or 4 months, he's really started to crank it up. Because I can tell, like when I pull him out of the box, before when I pull him out of the box by himself, he just kind of not really acting like he wanted to do much kind of thing. But now when I pull him out, it's like hold on to the leash because he's, pulling, wanting to go. So I'm thinking I could tell his attitude is, different when it comes to that part now. So, but I want to say about December-ish, you could really tell he started, getting his mind right and doing what he needed to.
And he's 3 now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So there you go, guys. We always think about dogs reaching, kind of their peak at 3 or 4 years old, and we worry so much about these pups. They don't, and it's easy to get caught up in that as I've watched the progress of these fever pups. And they are early starting from all indications. And it hasn't mattered much which female they're out of. They got a desire to go, to hunt, and I don't think any of them really has had any game, so to speak. They may have gotten to wool a dead coon here and there, but not much. But it's easy to get up into this. Well, John's dog up there, he stayed gone an hour last night. Mine didn't do that. So I'm kind of disappointed in that. We can't, they're each individuals. And
and I'm just as guilty of it as anybody else because I've had litter mates to somebody else. I'm like, why isn't mine? And I'm hunting mine just as much, if not more than his. And yet, so I'm guilty of it too.
Well, are there things that you look for in a dog that are deal breakers that just, when that happens, you decide, I just can't live with that?
Yeah. For me, it's you got to have a desire to go hunting. If you have no desire to hunt, then that's a deal breaker and you can't be rough. Those are the two things I absolutely, because I know they're going to make mistakes and this, that, and the other, and I can live with that. But you got to give me effort and you can't be rough. That's my 2 biggest pet peeves.
Well, and 2, down here, I've said many times I hunted in Michigan a lot by myself. It's really not wise to hunt a lot by yourself down here.
No, I've gotten a few places I shouldn't have.
You got these gator holes you can step in, and I don't mean there's a gator waiting there to chomp you, but it might be way deep over your head, and you're in a mess, with no help there.
Yes.
Just things like that. And somebody was telling me the other day they stepped in a stump hole. Who was I talking to about that? And we're hobbling around because of it. But, back in Michigan, I hunted a lot by myself, and I was rarely out of sight of a yard light somewhere on a farm, you know. And it's not like that down here.
No.
So, you know, but what I was going to say, you mentioned about a dog being rough. We tend to hunt with other people when we go down here.
Yeah.
And I know probably most of the guys out there do that. They go with a buddy or whatever. But nothing will end friendship any quicker than taking a mean dog on a hunt.
Yeah.
And I'm embarrassed to say, but I have to, when I've got a 7-month-old puppy here, and he is a goober. He's not aggressive, you know, toward other dogs at all. But I don't want to get that started in him, you know. I don't. And I have to ask, you know, does your dog tolerate a pup? Yeah. But thankfully, he's not a pup that's aggravating the other dogs at the tree. He's not pulling on their ears and jumping up on them and stuff. Either he's on his spot on the tree or he's not on it.
Yeah.
You know, one or the other.
And then another thing, which I know a lot of guys do now anyway, but especially down here, like I said, after these storms and everything, they got to have a handle on them. Because if for whatever the reason you can't get to them, you know, they got to be able to listen to you to, you know, have enough sense to, okay, boy, I can't get there. You know, you got to come to me. I've tried everywhere in the world and it just ain't happening. So.
Well, the handle is very, very important. And I know when I was talking about the Clyde dog up in Virginia when Keston Jesse had him, you know, and he kind of used his Garmin. All he had to do is turn the light on, and that was more or less the tone for Clyde. That meant, you know, to move him on. He used it more when the dog was bogging down, stand on his head a little bit, turn the light on, move him on, use the tone button if he wanted him to come back. Do you do any of those sort of things?
I generally don't turn the light on, but generally if I want them to come back, I've tried a couple times when they bog down just to kind of hit the button a little bit, just to, you know, tell them, okay, you're messing up. But I don't think it's really, I haven't really gotten really strong with it or anything, but I've generally, when I want them to come in, I'll start most time I can holler and they'll come, but sometimes I'll hit that tone button to say, okay, it's, you know, it's time. And well, last night I had to, big boy, he wanted to test me a little bit, and I kind of had to get his mind straight again, because he would like come, and then he decided he wanted to go on. I'm like, no, boy, I'm not going through this rough anymore. You got to come back to me.
You had to send him a little text message.
Yes. Yes. Reach out and touch him.
Yeah, really. Well, you know, and I used to do that with dogs that wanted to load up too quick on a tree. I would know, the cruise dog I had, that dog, you know, I would know if the track was not good and he bogged down, got confused enough, he was going to get treed. And, you know, I would use a tone to move him on from that. And if you've used the tone button around home with commands like no and you know, just different commands, and use the tone with it, they recognize that, hey, the boss man says that's not what I'm supposed to be doing, so I'll do something else.
Yeah.
And excuse me. Heath Hyatt taught me, and Archie Doré down in Louisiana, to be very light on the button. You know, when you're using the e-collar and using that stem, as they say, or stimulation, just a little bit works great in most cases. Just enough to get their attention. You really don't need to
fry them. Yes.
Yeah. Let them, as I've heard, ride the lightning.
Yes.
But some dogs are a little different. Now, this pup that I have here, Ghost, if I have to stem him a little bit, if I give him like a medium at about 4, he'll just kind of, you can see him grit his teeth and kind of turn his head a little bit, and he'll just take that,
Yes.
If I bump it up 1, maybe just a 5, or go from a medium to a high, and I get a little squeak out of him, he gets the message then,
Yes. That's about how clutch is. I got a 3 or 4 just like enough to make him but like when Minnie was young, I could have her at a 2 or 3 and hit her, and you think I was killing her, even at a 2 or a 3. So, like you said, some dogs get it a little differently.
You just kind of have to see what the tolerance level is there. But, like Heath used the example, like on your continuous, but just tap it, He said it's like somebody tapping you on the shoulder. And you're doing something else and they keep tapping you on the shoulder, it irritates you. You say, what do you want? Well, a dog's that way too. If they're doing something, and this pup I've got, he handles nice. You have no trouble catching him in the woods, yada, yada. But he's a bonehead sometimes. I mean, he's determined, But I got to brag on him. I went with Gordy Schrader back about 3 weeks ago or so. And we took Gordy's truck, and he's got a nice new Frontier, like similar to what you have. And lo and behold, we opened the box, and old Ghost, he jumped right up there and went in the box. Of course, that truck is quite a bit lower to the ground than my F-150 is. And so when I went up to hunt with Mike last weekend, man, he was loading in that box on Mike's Toyota, and he's got a lift kit on. I'd say at least a 3-inch lift. I don't know exactly what, but man, he's loading right in that box like a pro. And I'm thinking,
that's good.
I like that. I don't think Fever still loads in a box. I think he puts his feet up on the tailgate and Mark heists him up there. It just all depends how they're trained. But
I've seen some guys. The dog just put their feet up and they'll bend over and all. I'm thinking, man, that dog could jump up there. You just give him a little encouragement.
Right.
But,
those old Roy peanut butter dog biscuits, man. I used to say the old hoss dog I had, he'd drive my truck for a peanut butter dog biscuit. Just toss a dog biscuit up there in that box. Yeah, he'll get up in there and get it.
Oh, yeah, they'll figure it out. So
yeah, but baby steps. You take the little victories when you get them, and you have the dreams. And the thing about it is try not to get too discouraged. And the reason I wanted you to talk about Clutch is because I know you were a little discouraged with him when you first got him.
I was, after, like I said, I started, thinking, well, I've taken you in your age. In my mind, and I guess this is where I was wrong, I'm thinking, well, you're almost 2, so if you've got it, it shouldn't take long for your natural ability to come out. All I got to do is just expose you. Yeah. But I just didn't realize it was taking longer than what I anticipated, and there, like you said, there was times I'm like, okay, boy, you got to go to somebody else because I just can't handle this no more, and I kind of was browsing just to see, but I guess because of the area I'm at now, there's not as many dogs as what there used to be. So I was like, well, I just kept, plugging along with him, because there wasn't nothing really around this area. And I didn't feel like driving, 8 to 10 hours up the road somewhere. So, and then it just, like I said, clicked. Like I said, now last night it was, oh my gosh, here we are starting from scratch again. It was just a bad night, but this moon's filling up and everything. So,
but it's been tough conditions here lately.
But that last tree, he really thought he had it because he was talking to it a little bit. But I looked at it, was a big oak, and I couldn't, which I don't have a thermal or nothing, but I didn't see anything because he had made a tree. Well, him and Minnie had made a tree earlier, and I knew it was empty because it was just a little small tree. So I wasn't going to turn out no more. But when I seen that tree, I went, oh no, I can't have that. So I walked him on and made him go on. They worked a little bit, and he come on it real good that time. And I looked and looked, and I couldn't see it, but he believed he had it anyway. So.
Well, you talk about the ultimate in laziness for a coon hunter. It's me sitting on the couch and Randy and Troy Smith up there hunting, or Mark hunting, but especially Randy and Troy, because there's a lot of farmland around there and they get around. And these dogs are now the fever dog really hunts, but he's hunting mostly in mountains and in steep hills and stuff. Whereas theirs is hilly for sure, but it's not, big mountains. But, here the phone rings and it's a FaceTime message and I click on it and Randy says, okay, we're Farrah's tree out here ahead of us. You want to go into the tree? And I said, oh, yeah. So we go in the tree and he says, you got it? She got it, Troy? Oh, yeah. Look up there. There it is. You see it, Steve? Yeah, I see it. Yeah, man. All right. So we're going to, Fran, she's treed 800 this other way. We're going to go in there. All right. And I'll hang up and I'll sit there in a little while and the phone will buzz. and I'm going to every tree. He's taking, he's using the FaceTime, and then he'll usually shoot a video to send me after the fact.
Yeah.
And man, it's not as good as being there, but when you're my age, you don't have to do the walking. And
yeah.
But I'll be going up there again here this spring sometime after we get a few things done here that we need to do. We're going up to Columbus, Georgia this coming weekend to see our granddaughter graduate from Army AIT. And she'll go back home to be in the New Jersey National Guard. And we're very, very proud of her. So we're going to go up there to Fort Moore. And I've heard, someone told me here today that they think they're going to change those names back to the original names, which
I heard something about that.
I think, why would you want to change the name of something that's been there for that long? My dad did his basic in Fort Benning, Georgia, back in 1939, I think it was. So anyway, I'll get off that stump.
Okay.
Well, Matt, so you think you might have old Clutch pretty close to the point that you want to go put your money on the table?
He's getting there. He's not quite there yet. I still see him doing a few things I don't like that might still get me in trouble. So I'm work on that a little bit. He's on some trees. He's still, if he's not 100% sure, and if he trees with the dog, he'll kind of get off and miller or something. So I got to, work on that a little bit. But I mean, he's, I still like to see him. He's, sometimes when he does hunt by himself, sometimes he doesn't really get out there as far as what I'd like him to. So I'm going to try to maybe like push him a little bit, just, when he doesn't strike, instead of making them short circles, try to, see if he'll, go on a little bit further in there. And maybe that's just his DNA and he's that way. So,
yeah.
But I've noticed with another dog, if he's with another dog after a bit, then boom, he's, 300-400 yards away from him somewhere. So it's like, why can't you do that on your own, boy? So.
Right. Well, I remember when Bad Butch was winning the Tournament of Champions, he won the first one. Bill Stover's always had a good hound and known Bill for several years because he hunted some of the same areas at the night hunts that I hunted, way back in the day. But Butch was out there by himself. He was doing his thing, and and so the genes are there. I don't know anything about the female. Do you know anything about Clutch's mother or her background?
I don't know it right offhand, but the other day I was talking to somebody that had one off of Butch, and I think Clutch's mother, I think she goes back to Trackman.
I got you.
So he's got some, good blood in him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, bring him up a lot because he's my buddy and I talk to him a lot. But Randy Smith always says every time he bred to Trackman, he got good dogs.
Yeah.
And so Yeah. Well, that's good. You and I are going to have to get out. Do we have any place we can hunt right now, or just private land, or what?
No, all I got is right now just that little farm because turkey season's coming in. Well, I think it started today.
Oh,
so
yeah.
that's going to be out for 6-7 weeks, whatever it is. So, because I even commented, some guy was saying something about no dogs or whatever. And I was like, dogs and, shouldn't mess your turkey hunting up. I said, you have a right to turkey hunt, but, dogs ain't going to mess you up.
Well, that's true. And that study that we did in South Carolina years ago, it was primarily a deer study, but we also studied turkeys at the same time. And the study proved that hound hunting at night has no impact on turkeys' movements and so forth. In Michigan, they still think that there should be a quiet time when dogs are not in the woods in the spring, and that's more for the nesting birds. They think the dogs disturb the nest and so forth, but that's extremely rare.
Oh yeah. So I mean, I know you've seen it, and other people that hunt have seen it. How the deer hunters always complain, but yet you can shine out there and dogs are barking and treeing, and the deer, go into a tree and there's a deer, 50 yards just watching you.
Well, sometimes you can show them a picture, you can read the facts, you can put your hand on the Bible or take a lie detector test. They still won't believe they've got these foredrawn conclusions, about things. I was happy and I was sad to see that this guy received, I think it was $130-some fines and all for killing a dog out of a deer stand, a deer dog, a running dog. And then the possibility of a civil case. No, a criminal case is pending for this guy. They just, shot the dog, tried to shoot another one, and it's stupidity. Frustrating.
Don't understand why you would get. I mean, I understand if you don't want the dog there, that's one thing, but that's going to the extreme.
Well, of course, let the dog go on. The deer come along in a few minutes.
Yeah.
Maybe the dog got the deer up and got him moving for you,
if you want to give me a tongue lashing, go ahead, but just don't do that.
Yeah, exactly. I think we all have those stories, and we've heard them so often, and it's still frustrating. Your heart still goes out to the owner of the dog and the dog itself if you love dogs the way we do. And it's just such a senseless thing. And I'm the guy that's going to go for the jugular if somebody shoots my dog. I'm going to go for the animal cruelty charges. I'm going to go for the damages in a civil case. I'm going to go for jail time on the criminal side. I'm going to go to the local papers and expose the person, as much as I can. If somebody shoots my dog, I'm not going to be the guy that says, well, I'm going to go burn his house down. No, I'm not going to do that. He's probably got a family that can't be responsible for his stupidity. But at the same time, I'm going to take every avenue available to me.
Yes, I'm going to let him know I still exist.
Exactly. Exactly.
So,
Well, Mack, it's been good to visit with you.
Yes, sir. You too.
What are we going to do here? We're going to go hunting soon. We got, is it going to be just a lost cause until next fall?
I'm going to go somewhere tonight. I'm either going to go to the farm or that one guy that I hunt with, Kevin, I'm waiting to hear from him. He lives over there in Mulberry. He's got a place over there. So hopefully maybe you might get with him. If not, I'll call Brian, see if he's going to hunt the Grove tonight or if he's doing something else. So, but I'm going to plan on going somewhere. The management area is closed now, like I said, because of turkey season. So that's done with. So,
well, I believe in sharing, although, there's a lot of misinformation and a lack of education on the way these rules are set up. And speaking to Gary Langford today, we were talking about, some of these WMAs to open them up to coon hunting and how the deer hunters are generally opposed to that. And so there's always work to do.
Yes.
But so I told him, if you get anything going, he was talking about the possibility maybe of starting a new club. He's been asked. So
okay.
There might be that possibility. And of course, if you have a club, you need places to go hunting to take your casts.
Yes.
And he was telling me the wildlife, the management area or forest there near him, that I guess there's a lease there, a hunting lease that's being sold to the state, and I think they're going to add that on to that Gothi wildlife area there near him.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, it should be good. Yeah, it should be. So we'll see. Well,
hopefully it'll work out.
Well, I do too. But Mac, maybe you can get old Clutch, looking good and humming, and by next year we'll make another trip up there to Salem, and we'll hunt him in that big world hunt or something.
That would be nice. We'll see if he gets that good, but that would be nice.
Oh, yeah. Well, Mac, it's always good to talk to you, buddy. And when we get out there with the hounds, it's even better. And I wish you nothing but good luck with your young hound there. And you want to go, give me a call. I'll try to manage to get off the couch and go with you.
Okay, just make sure you buy enough cans of mosquito spray.
Oh, yeah, we're getting into that period, aren't we? Yeah. Well, just don't take me to that place up there that Malcolm Raines took us that night. I got out of the truck as you guys were getting ready to cut the dogs loose. I immediately got back in the truck, and I must have spent 30 minutes killing mosquitoes inside the truck. So
yes,
I could sit there and watch you on the Garmin. But, yeah, that's another thing we have to look forward to as the weather gets warmer, don't we?
Yes, sir. And the time change, I'm not really looking forward to that, but it is what it is.
You had to bring that up. In fact, tonight's the night. I think, what does that switch over, like 2 o'clock in the morning or something?
Something like that, because spring ahead. So
forward in the spring, so set your clocks forward 1 hour, everybody. So don't want you to be late for work on Monday or late for church tomorrow morning. So. All right, Mr. Mack Britt, is that from, what is that town, Ruskin? Paris.
Parish.
Yes, not like the town in France. Parish,
no,
like in Louisiana.
Yes.
They have parishes. Okay. Yeah. All right, Mac, it's been great to talk to you, and we'll do it again soon, buddy.
Yes, sir. Take care of yourself.
Yep. Friends, if you listen to the W Hunting Supply podcast, you know that Jason Doobie has gone on to greener pastures. He and his family are no longer with DU Supply. Jason's a very close friend and been a great guy to work with, and we want to wish them the very best in their new adventure. And if you need anything in hunting supplies for you or your dog, always remember dusupply.com, W Hunting Supply. And also Alpha Dog Nutrition for those supplements your dogs need. Until next time, this is the old gravelly voice coon hunter saying, if you want to know where Steve Fielder is, just call Mack Britt. He'll tell you. He's gone to the dogs.